How's it on YouTube? Peter here, Ginger Jordy Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we've got a kind of a new show for you, Top 3, where we're going to count down our top 3 favourite, whatever it may be, each month. So I'm going to start off by joining in with the main man who first came up with this idea. Well, I'm not, because he's just gone off camera. I was going to bring Efren in. I'll bring him in next. Oh, he's back. There he is. Efren, how are you doing?
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties.
Is that what it was? So, Efren, this is an idea that you had a good 6-7 months ago. I can't remember how long we've been doing this, where we basically went through with top 5, whatever it may be.
Yes.
And we've now moved it over to a live show.
Yes.
So it should be interesting. How are you doing anyway? You well?
I'm doing well. First time in a long time. I told you guys in the backstage it is cold and raining over here. So, but then you guys told me you've had bad weather like for about 2 months. So I went, okay.
Yeah. It's snowing here today. It's snowing here.
Yeah.
So my heart bleeds for you.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to bring in good old James T. How you doing, James?
What is happening, comic book familia?
How dare you?
You didn't do it, Efren. I need that.
I know. I was all out of sorts. I was, so I just skipped it this time. But thank you for having my back, James.
It was flawless, James. It was absolutely flawless. It was beautiful. How are you, mate? Are you well?
I'm good, man. Yeah, not too bad.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And last but not least, we have the attention-seeking geek, Ben.
You've been doing YouTube for a long time. Where, I think this is like the 4th time I've worn this. Get up now. It's quite funny though. You all look like it looks like the Batman 2022 poster right now.
Oh.
Like you're all in that kind of moody red light. So much so I feel sick. So I'm going to take these off. Whoa! I
forgot I had a set of them, but the last time I tried to put them on. The last time
yours are nice. Yours are the proper.
My head's too fat for them.
Replica.
My head's too fat. They kind of bend at the sides. How are you anyway? Are you well?
Yes, I'm good. I'm very excited. This is my favorite subject matter. So I'm looking forward to talking more mutants. It's funny, we've done this show. We've already done obviously some and spoke about mutants various times, and there's still too many to choose from. I'm still struggling to kind of narrow it down. So. But yeah, I've picked some favorites tonight.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll jump to the comments. Can I just say, ladies and gents, that my internet seems to be playing up tonight. So if I'm speaking over people, just shout at us because he's a bit jerky for me. And if I disappear, one of you just take on, please. So as ever, we've got our good friend, StreamYard. Nice to see you.
Quack.
We've got Past Point One Comics. Never heard of him.
We've
got Pete, GP Venom. Nice to see you, GP. And we've got Giggy. Thank you very much for joining me. Is it Giggy or Giggy? Or how do you pronounce
Gigi.
it?
It's really
Giggy.
It's a fairly simple one.
Giggy, is it?
Yeah, just Gigi. Just Gigi.
Giggity. I'm thinking, what's that offhand? Giggity.
What
about
Book
Rogers? Book Rogers.
House much. Yeah. Everyone's called John in Newcastle, so I'm sorry.
John, even the women. Yeah. Okay. Right. So, gentlemen, we're going to be talking mutants tonight. Do you like? I mean, Ben's just kind of told we're there a little bit, but do you like mutants? Have you got an affinity towards the X-Men?
Yes.
Nice. It's like having Simon back on the show. Efren, what about yourself?
Oh man, I've been an X-Men fan since I was a kid. That's one of the first comic books that I picked up. Besides Fantastic Four, just X-Men. They've always been basically, the racial undertones of the X-Men. Always being, not part of humanity, so to speak, but they're always saving humanity.
Yeah.
They're going above, where everybody thinks of them. So yeah, I've been a big X-Men fan from the books, from the animated series, and I love the X-Men and mutants.
Yeah, and of course we've done shows on the X-Men before, haven't we? We've done What If X-Men and things like that. That's a stunning print, Ben.
Show you how much of a fan I am.
Right.
I stare belovedly at it every day.
Yeah, it's a stunner. And Ben, we can't really start before I make a comment about that stunning proton pack behind you there. Where can people learn a little bit about that?
They can watch my unboxing reaction video, Peter. Thanks for the opportunity to plug that. I'm shitting my pants. I'm not going to lie, because it's it's obviously mounted on the wall, and it's been up since 2 p.m. and it's not fell yet. So I'm optimistic it'll be okay, but I'm very, very nervous.
I'd be wary about like your arm catching on it when you walk through the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my main thing.
You hadn't thought of that
too.
now, but now you've put that in your head.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not walking around in these, I should have my spatial awareness enough. But,
Or your daughter grabbing it, pulling it.
Yeah. Thinking it's the light cord or something like
Yeah.
that. and Just
Not
giving it a
that,
good
she's
tug.
not tall enough yet, but I'm just going to maybe raise it just every year. She
Year
gets
after
bigger
year.
and
Yeah,
bigger. It will eventually be on the roof. Yeah.
Okay, chaps. So we're going to be talking top 3 mutants, like was said. Yeah, I completely agree. It's too close. That would be getting me
Guys,
sweaty.
can you stop it? You're giving
Yeah.
me anxiety.
Panicking now. So we're going to be talking mutants. We have, as we've said, done this before. We did this as a recorded show a little while ago where we did our top 3 mutants. If you haven't seen that, what we're going to do now is just very quickly canter through some of the characters we mentioned on that. So this was my first picks. I picked Cannonball. Efren picked Kitty Pryde. James T picked the Toad, and Ben picked Kid Omega. So some pretty cool characters there. We also talked about Magic, Beast, Wolverine, and oh Jesus, Maggot. Yeah, which was an interesting one. We then picked Archangel,
So
Mimic,
disrespectful.
Pyro. Oh God, it gets worse. Pyro, and then Eyeball Boy.
Aye, boy.
Wild balls by boy. I mean, Ben, some of your picks. Are we going to get better picks tonight, do I think?
I think tonight's more conventional. They're bigger characters tonight. They really are the kind of the real favorites, I think. But I've got a lot of kind of favorites that are characters on the fringe. So I feel like I scratched that itch in the last show, and tonight's a little bit more conventional. But I have got an obscure one to boot. So
good stuff. And we've got some new people joining. We've got Andy with bringing the tone. I think is we've set a level there. Thanks, Andy.
Splurged the humour there, didn't he?
And we've got GP making some predictions about your characters. Well, we've already had Toad, so Colossus might make an appearance, but we'll see. So if I can encourage you to go back and have a look at that show, I think is that on my channel or your channel, Efren? I can't remember.
I think it's yours.
Yeah. So go back and check that one out over on my channel. So tonight we're looking at our next top 3. And as Ben said, there are so many to choose from. What we've done tonight, the guys don't know what each other's picked. So some of these will be a nice surprise to you guys. And we're just going to have a bit of a canter through and discuss each one in a little bit of detail. Hi, Wayne. Thanks very much for joining me. So let's kick things off with our first picks. And we've got some interesting characters there, I think. So I think we'll start, because you was mentioned before, we'll start with you, Ben, and we'll work our way along with your choice of the day.
Yes, so this really is my ultimate favorite X-Men character, and to be honest, I'd potentially say favorite Marvel character. Full stop. Like this guy means a lot to me. So of course I'm talking about Colossus here on the far right. Whose body was actually molded on my own. I did some shots with me in underwear, and they sort of, based
I
it
can
around
see the
that.
likeness, Ben. I can see the likeness.
You got the boobs right, anyway.
Uncanny X-Men. Brilliant. Cheeky bastard. So you're lucky you picked Avalanche, because I like that one. Giant Size X-Men, of course, was the debut of Colossus, which was the debut of a number of different characters, and one of my other choices that we'll come back to later as well. So that was back in 1975 with Len Wein. I never know how to say his name, and Dave Cockrum on art. But I think you could make an argument that Chris Claremont was really the one who sort of solidified the legacy for a lot of those characters in his work thereafter. Colossus has his history just it's a rich tapestry of brilliance. But some of the highlights for me were him sacrificing himself for the good of mutants when there was this whole legacy virus thing. So that was back in X-Men 390. There's a lovely cover of him sort of injecting himself in this stuff, and then it would release out and save everybody because he's a selfless bastard and we love him for it. His relationship with his little sister Magic is especially kind of just lovely to kind of be a fly on the wall for. So that, you know, that kind of uncanny X-Men run really sort of cemented that. Of course, we've got his return in Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men. So I think sort of Joss Whedon's passion for the character really sort of came across in his writing there. And yeah, just a very cool reunion with him and Kitty. Him and Kitty, you know, their romance in itself is a really interesting read. Becoming part of the Phoenix Five in AVX, that was a really interesting moment for the character, kind of having that access to power and what that kind of did to his personality and things like that. Speaking of power, you got the Juggernaut Force when he sort of messed around with the Cyterac deal, and him and Juggernaut have had some great scraps in back in the day. I think it's Uncanny X-Men 183 where they have the kind of bar fight. That's a particular favorite. In the movies, we've seen him played by Daniel Cudmore in X-Men 2 and X-Men The Last Stand, and then Stefan Kapicic played him in the Deadpool movies. So yeah, I you know, for me, I think I love the juxtaposition in comics where you have a character that kind of has almost kind of monstrous skills or abilities or kind of, you know, appearance, and yet their personality is the complete opposite. You know, Peter Rasputin has a real kind of soft, tender, sincere sort of nature. He's an artist. He's just so loving and caring. And also as well, like, he was a Russian character that wasn't kind of painted like the bad guy, you know, which was a really sort of refreshing thing, especially for the time, I think. Because hey, not all Russians are bad. Some definitely, but not all of them are bad. So, you know, I think that was a really sort of welcome element to the character as well. So that I've tried to narrow it down. I'm sorry, that was a long. That was a lot of words, but that is kind of sums up why I love the character and some of his key moments in his history there.
No, it was great, Ben. I mean, Josh Whedon's run on X-Men is one of my favorite runs, and there's that, like you described, that scene where he's reunited with Kitty, and he just kind of runs through her. I think, doesn't he, to get to like the enemy behind her or whatever. It's just
kind of comes out the shadows as well. It's like it's drawn stunning. So well,
absolutely stunning. Ephraim, what do you think of Colossus? One of your favorites?
Oh, it's one of my favorites when they first came out in 1975 in Giant Size X-Men. I was like, wow, you know, a whole new set of X-Men that basically started the reboot of the X-Men, you know, and them along with Storm, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and the rest of them. Yeah, it was a great era, you know, great pick.
Yeah. Have you got a Giant Size X-Men #1, Ephraim?
Yes.
I thought you might. James, what do you think of his portrayal in the movies so far?
I when I was a kid, like watching the X-Men movies, I loved Daniel Cudmore's version of it, and I think it was for a long time I didn't even know he was supposed to be Russian. But I think it's portrayed, the Parasite's portrayed very well. I think he looks awesome, and then Deadpool I think really brought the character to life, and I love the kind of humor of him. He's a great foil with Deadpool. Like, their back and forth is great. He's the kind of straight man. So yeah, no, it's a character not among my favorites, but a character I've always quite liked.
I'm hoping they bring him back for Deadpool 3, mind. I've not seen anything to say he's coming back yet, but I hope they do.
I don't know whether there's room for him, to be honest.
There's a lot going on, isn't there?
Wolverine, and there'll be other multiversal bits, unfortunately.
I know, but Ben, what if we get a fastball special?
Well, then clean up on aisle 10.
I'd imagine they'll want to do a fresh take on this character. So, I don't think he'll come back.
And I've just recently picked up a 1/6 scale Colossus, so I haven't had a chance to have a proper look at it yet, but it looks pretty cool. I'll have to get that one out and display at some point. Thanks, Ben. Yeah. Just to quickly jump to the chat, the guys in the chat are listing their favourites, so please do put your top 3 mutants in the chat. So we've got Rogue, yeah, love Rogue, Mystique, and Namor. Interesting choice. Obviously, the first mutant there. Interested to hear your thought of Namor's portrayal in Black Panther. Not so convinced myself, but let us know what you think. GP Venom, Wolverine, Gambit, and Beast. Yep, very, very cool picks. Ian, Puck, I think he's
Puck.
referring to Puck. Yep, Wolverine, and Cyclops. Cyclops not a one that you hear very often. For some reason, Cyclops gets a real bad press, but I do like Cyclops. I like that straight-laced kind of.
I liked him post AVX.
See, I knew you were going to say that. I hated him post AVX.
I fell in love with him.
Yeah, nah.
Because all the bullshit that he's had to take, like, and he's kind of been the Boy Scout for so long, he finally snapped, and I was like, yeah, so you should, like, get him.
Yeah.
Go get him.
He killed Professor X, didn't he?
Yeah, but like the Phoenix killed Professor X. Like, you know, he was like, he was under the influence. Come on,
I didn't like what they did with his
influence.
I didn't like what he did with his power set when his optic blasts became all kind of swirly and wobbly and stuff. Didn't like that.
But that's how like Havoc's manifests.
Yeah.
So kind of in line with that.
Yeah. James, tell me about your pick.
So I've learned a little bit myself, Peter, doing these videos, which is that I tend to lean towards villains and X-Men Evolution characters. So I'm not super familiar with Avalanche in the comic books, but I know in Evolution he's kind of this sort of rebellious teenager and this like reluctant villain who's kind of doing what he's doing with the Brotherhood out of kind of a feeling of injustice, and that was something as a kid I really connected with. Love the power set. I think it's a really unique and interesting one, like the seismic waves. He's one of my favorite characters on the show. I don't know if I'd imagine this isn't a thing in the comics, but his kind of relationship with Kitty Pryde in that show was really good as well. Kind of Romeo and Juliet kind of thing.
Right, I don't think I've seen that in the comics.
It's not a thing in the comics.
But in that show anyway. So yeah. I'm not gonna go as in depth as Ben with this. Character I really quite like.
Fine. Very cool, and again a very cool power set. Ephraim, what do you think of Avalanche?
He's a cool character. I don't know that much. I remember reading him in the comic books. I believe he died from that the virus.
Legacy virus.
The X-Men virus at the beginning. I always liked his powers. I mean,
Ben?
Yeah, much like James, I sort of fell in love with him through X-Men Evolution, and you know, speaking about his relationship with Kitty, the kind of jealousy and the bitterness is what kind of put him down that villainous path, and it just plays out really well. His outfit's terrible in that show, though.
It's just a rockhead.
Oh, it's so shit. I think the power set as well, like visually, you can just do so much with it, and it's just so cool, isn't it? Like when you're a kid, like you know, if you had the power to shake the ground, that's just like something like that taps into a very kind of childlike need. So yeah, very cool. Big fan.
Yeah, very good, very good. Not a character I'm particularly familiar with, to be honest, in the comics. Wayne Deacon's just jumping in there with his 3: Beast, Shadowcat, and Banshee. Yep, 3 very strong picks. We've had Beast and Shadowcat, I think. Banshee, yeah, phenomenal character, and I love it when he actually cuts loose with his powers, and you see that kind of effect. So yeah, some good picks there. Avalanche is underused in the comics, much like Richter. Yeah, Richter from originally New Mutants, another good character. Question there: who's first, Avalanche or Quake? I'm not sure. Avalanche. It'll be Avalanche.
Yeah, because he was in the original Brotherhood and stuff. Quake
first came out in the Secret Wars, didn't you? The kind of the modern version. Unless you mean, I was thinking Terra from the Titans. Okie dokie. Ephraim, you picked an interesting character. Tell me a little bit about Armor.
Well, before I go any further, there are so many mutants that we're going to be picking when we do this. But we're picking 3 different ones all the time, and it's going to be interesting to see what our choices are going down the line, I must say. You know, so this one is Armor. Her name is Hisako Ichiki. She came out on Astonishing X-Men #4, created by Josh Whedon and John Cassidy. So I like this character because of her psionic armor. She has strength, and she's able to manipulate her armor as she gets more accustomed to her powers. There was this one scene in a comic book where she's fighting Wolverine, and she took on like the armor of Wolverine. She had the claws and everything, but still in this form. So I really like this character. I can't believe she's been around for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been trying to look for more newer mutants, so to speak. I just really like her powers. You know, she keeps her human form inside of her armor. So I thought it was, you know, very interesting powers she has.
Yeah, she's very cool. She's not been in a movie yet, has she? Have we seen any?
I was just thinking of that, and I don't think
no,
so.
But I think, unfortunately, I think Miss Marvel's kind of ruined that now because, do you know what I mean? It's this. It'll look very similar. So it's a shame because I would have put her down as a big potential character to be part of the team.
On the big screen, that could look, with the right special effects, spectacular, couldn't it? It would look amazing.
Oh yeah.
We should have put a spoiler warning up first. Do apologise. A bit late now. Yeah.
Spoilers for what?
Well,
X-Men Evolution from like 2005. Come on, Gigi, have a word.
James, is this a character you're familiar with at all?
Never heard of her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna forward you some comics.
Okie dokie. Ian's just jumping in there with Magic, Rogue, and Rachel Grey. Yeah, very, very good. I picked Magic, and the last time we did this because I think she's one of the best characters out there.
Yeah.
And I forgot about Rogue. I do love Rogue, mind.
Yep.
I want to recommend Alpha Omega, which was a book about Kid Omega and Wolverine having like a psychic like scrap. But intermittently, Wolverine's kind of training up armor, so it's a really good series to kind of get an insight into armor as well. She's the third part of that story.
Not heard of that one.
We can do a
it was
video.
a 4-part miniseries. Alpha Omega.
We should do a video of all of Wolverine's sidekicks.
Yeah, he's had a few, hasn't he? He's had a few. Okay, my first pick. Anybody know who this character is?
Yes, Vance Ash, right? That was a great pick. Yeah,
it is. Vance Astrovic or Astrovic. So not an X-Man, but we were talking about mutants, not necessarily X-Men.
Yes.
So this is one of my favorite characters going back years from when I first started reading comics back in my heyday. So Vance has got an extremely convoluted backstory and back history, as most of these characters have. First appeared in Giant Size Avengers 5 in 1975. Is basically he gets visited by his future self, Major Astrovic, and told not to go on a space mission. Because if he does, he gets stuck in suspended animation for centuries and centuries. And he basically becomes one of the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep. So if you think back to that original lineup, the very first lineup of Guardians, Vance is the one who's kind of sealed in a metal suit because his body's withered. And if air touches his body, he just decomposes. In the Guardians timeline, he kind of progresses. And then in the future, he gets Captain America's shield, and he's a big member of the kind of the what's the run you're reading at the moment, James?
Abnett. He's sort of central in the beginning few issues.
Yeah, but he comes into that, doesn't he? Yeah. In the regular kind of Marvel universe, he's got an amazing backstory in that he's friends with the Thing for a period of time. He's got a tragic story in that he's a child of abuse. So his father recognizes his mutant gene in him and kind of abuses him regularly for it. He's got telekinetic powers, and he joins the New Warriors in the very first setup of the New Warriors team, with Night Thrasher, Namorita, Nova, and all that lot. And that's kind of when I first started really reading it, that New Warriors run, which is an amazing run. I really recommend people read that. And the thing that stands out with Vance is how human he was, but also he's got an amazing storyline where basically his father's beaten him, and his mum steps in to defend him, and his dad hits his mum. So Vance emotionally lashes out with his telekinesis and kills his father. And they go through this whole trial thing with the telekinetic power being used as the murder weapon and things. And he goes to the vault. It turns out that he trains the guards in the vault to be more effective. And all. It's a really brilliant storyline. After that, he joined the Avengers with
Yep.
Firestar. And then after that, I think he was part of Avengers Academy, where he was training kind of the new Avengers. And I've kind of lost touch with him after that point. He's had some tragic costumes. That one I quite like. But he's just a really interesting, detailed character. So yeah, one of my favorites. So Ian Ward's just saying there, he looks like Justice from New Warriors. That's exactly who he is, mate. He started off as, his code name was Marvel Boy originally, and then he turned to Justice. So yeah, great character. Any of you guys familiar with him?
Yep, I am. Great choice. I didn't think about that. I was usually just focused on the X-Men, but he's great choice.
Sorry, Ben, you were saying?
Nope, he's frozen.
Ben's frozen.
Only even reckon. Oh, yeah, mate.
Ben's still frozen.
I think you're there, but are you back, Ben?
No.
Are you familiar with him, James?
I knew of his character previously, but I'm reading about him for the first time in Guardians, which is really cool. Then I love this costume. I've never seen this one before. That's a really cool design. So yeah, I'll check out more of his kind of non-Guardian stuff with New Warriors and thing. I think I'll check that out.
I like this costume. Excuse me. I like this costume when he was with the Guardians of the Galaxy, the original Guardians of the Galaxy. The way, like you said, was protected. If air hit his body, it would just wither.
That's
I
right.
like that costume a lot.
Yeah. Ben, are you back with me?
I bloody hope so.
Yeah.
It's dead weird, and then it kind of refreshes itself. It does it like once a show. Very annoying. I apologize for my unprofessionalism. I only really know of him through the Guardians, to be honest, to the point where I didn't even recognize him. Like I only really know him in that kind of armor with the cap shield and stuff. So this is an awful outfit. This is a horrendous design. And I don't know what's wrong with you, Peter. But the backstory, you really sold the backstory. It sounds quite compelling, so I'll check it out.
I don't mind that costume. I think that's one of the better ones. The one he wore in the Avengers run was horrific, absolutely horrific.
Worse than that.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so that was my pick. Got lots of people commenting in the chat, so thank you very much, ladies and gents. Don't forget, if you haven't come to you already, let me know in the chat who your top 3 mutants are, and we'll pop them on screen and have a chat about them. So, next picks, we'll go back to you, Ben, with a classic character.
Yes, Kurt Wagner, or in the Great Munich Circus, I was known as Nightcrawler. Yes, I love this fuzzy elf. Of course, as I alluded to earlier, first appeared in Giant Size X-Men #1 alongside Colossus and Co. Back in '75, and just again, just a character that's kind of family history is so kind of complex and interesting. So you have all the drama with of course Mystique, who's sort of abandoned him and things like that, and then links to Azazel, who's like one of the coolest MFs in comic books. I love that guy. Had his swashbuckling kind of pirate run in his first solo run back in 1985. There was quite an emotional death where he was like protecting Hope Summers from a Sentinel back in X-Force 26, I want to say. Let me check my notes. 26, got it right. Excalibur as well. Big part of that first Excalibur team, which is just a superb run by Chris Claremont and Alan Davis, if people haven't read that. I honestly think it's probably one of the best comic book performances we've ever had in film by Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. I just thought it was
opening
absolutely
scene in the White House is
too,
just.
I would argue that's one of the best comic book movie scenes we've ever had. Even now, with the MCU and everything, it's just it's mind blowing. And to be fair, like whilst the films aren't great, I think Cody Smith-McPhee was actually fantastically cast and did a really good job as well. Like we were talking about earlier, X-Men Evolution. was probably one of my favorite versions of the character as well. He really sort of they focused on him a lot in that series and gave him a lot of time and stuff, and it was just a great version of the character. It's I'm laughing at one of the picks, and you'll see why. But that's all I've got to say. But yeah, Nightcrawler's just always been one of my favorites. Again, it taps into that kind of, he's got this monstrous kind of demon-like appearance, and yet he's a incredibly kind of soft individual who has a huge amount of faith as well. It's funny for a guy that looks almost like a devil. He got a huge amount of faith, and whilst I'm Mr. Atheist, I always admire and are quite drawn to characters who have strong faith, because I think it's a lovely thing. So
stunning, an amazing character. I mean, I'm a massive Nightcrawler fan. I'll come to James in there in a second, but I really like it when he uses his powers quite creatively as well. I might touch on it later on. There's an excellent X-Men run, Age of Apocalypse, and in one of the kind of the mini series, which was Excalibur, Nightcrawler grabs someone's fingers and teleports. I don't know if you've seen that bit, and he takes the fingers with him. And it's just an amazing use of his power. And I don't know why, up till that point, I'd never even thought about that. And I think he takes someone's head off at some point as well, legs around the head and teleports. It's spectacular. Efren, you a big Efren fan? Nightcrawler fan?
Oh, yeah. To me, Nightcrawler is like the heart and soul of the X-Men. I mean, his humanity, his faith, has, to me, are like his strong points. And just the way he's been portrayed throughout the years, especially I believe he became a priest for a while.
Yeah.
In recent X-Men. But I've been reading about him recently, and he has mutated a little bit. I forgot why, but he has actual horns now. I forgot why. Right. Something happened to him recently where he has horns. And he became
linked to the sins of Sinister and all of that stuff.
Yes, exactly. That was it with Sinister. Yeah, he looks more like a demon now. But he's still leading the way with his, like I said, with his faith and his humanity. It's one of my favorite X-Men, ever since 1975. Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. James, what about yourself?
Love him. I'm always a fan of like when a character that looks like a villain or should be a villain is like a heroic one. Especially like since he's like one of the more comedic and lighthearted characters, I think. In spite of quite a tragic backstory where he's like, a circus freak and all, but always love the design. Amazing powers. I think teleporting is one of the coolest ones out there. Huge fan of Alan Cummings' performance in X-Men 2 as well. I was going to say that White House scene is one of my favorites in any movie as well.
Absolutely,
it's excellent.
It's just so well done, but isn't it? I mean, it's
even like the kind of the like smoky. Yes, of it when he goes as well, like it's incredible,
and it's scary. Like they made it feel scary, and because it's a bloody blue demon like coming out of like this smoke, like it's and they really captured that perfectly.
And again, just to wind Ben up, I've just recently purchased a 1/6 scale Nightcrawler, which I haven't had a proper look at yet. But
I'm holding out hope that we'll get an Alan Cumming version.
There was
one day.
I spotted on one of the Facebook pages a kind of I think it was one of these homemade ones, where they use the 3D printers and all that kind of jazz.
Oh yeah,
and it did look pretty good, but yeah. Jack's just saying there his three favorites: Nightcrawler, North Star.
Yes, North Star.
And North Star is very cool. From Alpha Freight. Is that North Star?
Yes.
Yeah. First out superhero as well.
Yeah. Doesn't he get his powers when he's holding hands with his sister as well? Something happens.
They're like intertwined, with what they do. But she dies, doesn't she?
But you're right, Ben. I think you're right. He was the first openly out, and didn't they have a wedding issue and all kinds of stuff?
A wedding, yeah.
Very cool.
I've got that signed actually.
Have you? Very cool. And again, that will link to my character in a little bit. And Havoc. I think Havoc's grossly underused. I love Havoc. And he had a series, again, going back to the heyday when I used to read a lot of comics, called, was it Mutant X? Where he was shunted to a parallel universe with different versions of the X-Men. That was
Is that
really
where
cool.
Bishop's like a cop and that? Like,
Yeah, and in Warren Worthington, Angel has been, I think he's like a vampire or something. He's called Bloodstorm or something, but it looks very, very cool. Yeah, Aurora, that's right. And Mark Oldroyd's just jumped in there with his 3 favorites. Namor, yeah, Magneto and Dazzler, very cool picks.
nice.
Magneto, again, one that I don't think we've had yet, but again, an amazing character. I do like Magneto. And I'm always reminded, again, going back to Age of Apocalypse, there's that last battle scene where he's fighting Apocalypse. Have you guys read that issue?
Such
And
a long
kind
time
of,
ago, but yeah.
Apocalypse is kicking the crap out of him, and he kind of says, "Why aren't you fighting?" And Magneto says, "Well, I'm concentrating," and then moves his hands, and Apocalypse splits down the middle and just tears in half. It's phenomenal.
With his ponytails.
Yeah, with his ponytails. Yeah, actually, I bought. Sorry,
Or pigtails,
sound like a broken record. I bought a Magneto 1/6 scale figure a little while ago, and the guy I bought it off had customed the helmet and put the ponytails in the helmet, so you can have that ponytailed version, which is very cool. Okay, James.
So this is a nostalgia pick for me. I haven't watched X-Men Evolution since I was a kid, so I'm not sure if this character stands.
Hey, it's on Disney Plus. Get on it.
Is it?
Actually, is it on Disney Plus?
It's not on Disney Plus. I checked.
It might be on my dodgy pirate.
Yeah. But yeah, this is Spike, who's kind of a character that was created for the show just to add a bit of more diversity. He's sort of the POV character, if I remember correctly. Like, he's the one you're kind of introduced to the X-Men through. Yeah. So a character I've always loved, and I remember as a kid being kind of curious why they never added him to the movies. I don't know if this is a character people like dislike or something, because I believe he's not appeared in comics afterwards.
I think the main issue is that he's a completely sort of, his powers are exactly the same as to some a very beloved character, which I will talk about very soon, James. That's why I was saying that I was annoyed. Yes, because you picked the TV bloody version of my character. But I'll let you continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it. Like, I remember loving this character as a kid. Anyway,
did we get a version or a kind of a version of him in that atrocious X-Men film?
So there's a character who has like bits of bone that come down to his hand. He throws them at him, but I don't really think that counts.
Dude, he's like, yeah,
that was uncanny, Ben. No pun intended. That was very much like him. That was very good.
I love this character. Like, because was he Storm's relative as well? In X-Men
possibly, yeah, I can't remember.
But yeah, I always just thought he was super cool. Like, you know, he was like a skateboarder and like stuff like that in the show, and I was just like, yeah, this kid's cool. Yeah, it's a shame. I definitely think you could honor this character now, whether it be in a comic book or a film.
I'm surprised they haven't put him in the comics. I wonder if there's some licensing thing or something connected to the cartoon.
Yeah, well, you would think it would be like a Harley Quinn situation where they would make that kind of jump over at some point. But as far as I can tell, there's no like even alternate universe version of him.
The only thing I can think is if the character I'm going to talk about shortly has a baby, and that baby's Spike.
Yeah. Ephraim, you picked a classic character.
Yeah, this is Dazzler, Alison Blair. To be honest with you, when she first came out in the comic books, I got what a lame power she has, but she's grown, to me throughout the years, She first came out in X-Men 130, and she's a singer. And when her powers were, let me see what her powers again. Energy blast, energy absorption. Basically, when energy manipulation, when she sings, she turns her songs into like energy powers or light powers. But she didn't want to be a mutant, obviously. She just wanted to be a singer. That was her whole path in life, to be a singer. But, she just, when she found out she was a mutant, she kind of said, no, I don't want to, be a mutant. I just want to stay as a singer. But obviously, that couldn't happen. Once mankind found out she was a mutant, they started to rebel against her. And I think somewhat reluctantly, she joined the X-Men for a while. And her powers just grew stronger and stronger. Now she's one of my favorite mutants. She even became a herald of Galactus for a short while.
Was she?
Yes, I forgot what issues, but I remember, she was Herald of Galactus, and her powers just became more intense and more powerful throughout the years. So she like grew on me little by little, and one of my favorite characters now.
Thanks, Efren. Jack's just saying a cameo in Dark Phoenix is probably one of the best things you're right.
Yeah, he's
You're
not
absolutely
wrong.
right.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was at the party scene.
She's
wasn't
in
it?
the part. Yeah, she's just singing
Yeah.
at the party. So shit.
I mean, Efren, a tremendous character. Again, she's had some interesting costumes. Ben, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that's got to be a cosplay in your future, surely.
Yeah,
I could see you rocking the wig.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be the weirdest thing I've done.
That's very true. Yeah. James, are you familiar with Dazzler?
Yeah, I love the whole 80s starless kind of aesthetic of her, and I've always been a fan when I see like a lot of people do like album covers and things like that for the character. So I'm more familiar with the iconography of her, and that's something I've always quite liked.
She used
Are
to
you a
have
fan,
rollerblades too, like
Yeah.
escaping from her villains. That was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Are you a fan, Ben?
No. I mean, she's fun. She adds to the tapestry of mutants being strange in their own ways and stuff. It's fun. It's a bit of fun, but yeah, not a character got a
I seem to
connection with.
remember during the X Factor run, she was going off into space to perform, and she ended up having, what do you call the guy who, when he absorbs kinetic energy and his body deforms and becomes big? Is it Goodio or something from the X Factor run? Big. He's got like tiny legs and tiny legs and a massive body. Goodio.
Oh, the Sugar Man.
No, Guido, I think he's called. Anyway, but he's a roadie kind of thing, traveling the galaxy with him and things like that. If anybody knows who I'm talking about in the chat, put it in. I'm sure it's Goodio or something.
She showed up in the Uncanny X-Men run after AVX, which I really love, where Cyclops got almost like a terrorist, like with his group. She showed up like having connections to like space then, I think. Yeah.
Well, this character I'm thinking of was from the he died of the legacy virus, I think. And basically whatever kinetic energy he absorbed, it deformed his body, so he'd get like a massive arm or a massive head and stuff. Anyway, Freezy is just chipping in with his favorite there. He's got Iceman, Gambit, and Magneto. Again, 3 great picks. Iceman in particular is another one I forget about some things, but I really
Omega,
like
baby. He's Omega level.
Yeah, he's Omega level, isn't he? What else we've got? We've got Chris from Off My Shelves, Phantom X. Oh, that's a good one. A really interesting character, Phantom X.
I'm sorry to be the guy.
Sorry
to be the guy, but Juggernaut is not a mutant.
Oh, Ben. Chris, I'm afraid, hang
sorry,
your
Chris.
head in shame, Chris. Gets his powers from the gem, doesn't he?
Tuck your little head back into your snuggie. Juggernaut is not a mutant.
Apocalypse. I actually had Apocalypse on this list, but I took him off. But yeah, one of my favorites. I love Apocalypse. Okay, so my pick. Do any of you know who this is?
Wiccan?
Isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a bit. This is a bit of a controversial one because it depends what you read as to whether the class him as a mutant or not a mutant. So some of the Marvel stuff have got him down as being a mutant, and some hasn't. But I'm taking him as a mutant. He's the child, obviously, of Scarlet Witch. He's got an extremely convoluted history in that he's the resurrected souls of our kids and all this kind of jazz. Anyway, my kind of passion for him came from the original Young Avengers run, where they set up himself and Iron Lad, and it's what gave her Kate Bishop and Patriot.
Coffin.
Yeah, all those characters I absolutely love. And when he first kind of came on the scene, he was calling himself Asgardian, and he was using kind of Thor-like powers. And my passion for Thor, so I really, really enjoyed that take on the character. As the years have progressed, that was in 2005, by the way. Sorry. As the years have progressed, he's kind of developed as a character. Love that costume. I think it's amazing. You can't really see it on that image, but it's kind of like got a Starfield kind of side to the leg. He's been rumored to be the Sorcerer Supreme in the future. He was in the new version of the Young Avengers, done by Kieran Gillen, I think, where it said that in the future he's going to be kind of almost the most powerful being because of his reality warping powers. one of the most powerful beings in the future. He's just an amazing character, and what I really like out of him is one of the things we were just touching on before. Is he's I feel like I've watched a real relationship. So in terms of comic book kind of development, he started a relationship with Teddy with Hulkling years ago, and I've watched that develop over the last 10, 15 years to the point now where they're married. And I just think it's a lovely story. Really interesting character, really interesting power set, and someone who I think will probably come to the MCU. I think we all agree, don't we, that they're going to be building some version of the Young Avengers in the future.
Yeah.
And of course, we saw him and his brother Speed in the Wanda and Vision TV series as kids. So yeah, I think a great character. Any comments from you guys on Wiccan?
Yeah. Originally, you said he was Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is the mother, correct?
Kind of. So if you go back years and years, Ephraim, Scarlet Witch created 2 children.
Yes.
And there's a whole story of it being part of Master Pandemonium, I think, his souls and things and all kinds of stuff. And then when she had a breakdown, the kids disappeared and she brought them back and all that jazz. I think the current story is that he's got proper parents. It's very confusing.
Oh, wow.
He's got proper parents or something, and it's the spirit of her children in their body. Like I say, it gets very confusing.
Yes. I was gonna say, how are they mutants then? Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So yeah. So I think his mutant powers are linked to Wanda and the reality altering kind of powers that she has. Ben, you familiar with this character?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I love that Kieran Gillen run, especially. Like yourself, the relationship with Hulkling is just played out really naturally, which isn't common in comics. Things usually play out either, like very quickly, but it's been quite organic. And as awful as that run was, what was it called? The one around their wedding. Can't remember.
Oh,
but
Empire
anyway,
was dreadful.
Yeah, Empire rubbish. But the actual wedding segments of it were very, very sweet and lovely to sort of see. So, the rumors are Coven of Chaos will have a an adult version emerge. I prefer his brother though, Speed. Like I love my Quicksilver. So yeah, Speed's my boy.
James, are you familiar at all?
Only really from WandaVision. Like I read a bit about him as that show was going on and kind of where they were going to go with that story. But I love his costume though, so it's definitely one of the best newer characters.
Good stuff. Okie dokie. So on to our next 3. Ben, back to you with an atrocious character.
You can't just say that. Why is she atrocious?
Just not.
I like this character.
Spike.
Well, that's a really compelling argument you got there. So here's the reason I sighed when I saw Spike, because Spike, of course, was heavily influenced by this lady, who is Marrow. So she first appeared not as Marrow, but as like a little girl, Sarah. She's called in the comic Sarah Rushman, back in Cable 15, which was like 94. And she's considerably younger than what she is when she comes back in like a year. But anyway, comics. So she's sort of first appeared as we see her here in X-Men Prime. And just a really kind of turbulent introduction. Like she ultimately kind of came into the frame as a vengeful villain, for her Morlock days, and specifically what she kind of witnessed Gambit do and stuff as well. So that was all really interesting. There's a great cover on 72 where she's facing against Wolverine. It's probably one of my favorites kind of bits of imagery from her. In Cunny X-Men 346, they changed her appearance, kind of gave her like a bone bra. I hated it. It was awful. They eventually kind of went back to the way she was supposed to be. She sort of in recent years has been through some traumatic stuff, like she lost a baby and things like that. She joined Cable's X-Force, but she was kind of had like a inhibitor thing on because she was like feral about that or something. I don't know. But just a really sort of interesting history and backstory. I love like a reluctant hero, someone who's sort of fueled by emotions. I relate, and yeah, I just think visually as well. Like I just love like the horror of bones kind of growing outside of the skin, and she can kind of rip them off and throw them as weapons and stuff like that. I just think it just looks so cool. And on a personal level, she ticks a lot of boxes. Quite athletic, pink pixie hair. I need help. But yeah, she's just awesome. I've always loved Marrow, so yeah, Marrow.
Good stuff. Another interesting pick. Guys, are you familiar with Marrow?
Yeah, cool character. I always like this character, and I thought she's underused. You know, there's so many mutants that are underused. I mean, I think there's just too many. That's the reason why.
Yeah,
you know?
She was in the vote to be in the new X-Men team. You know, I think it was last year's one at the Hellfire Gala, and I was pissed off because she didn't get it, and I voted for her.
I don't think she suffers from being one of those characters that they've tried to redesign, and the redesign's been an absolute failure, and because of that, it's damaged the character so much. Because I remember reading her when she first came out, and I didn't like her as a character because I don't get drawn to those kind of anti-hero RC kind of characters. But I enjoyed her power set. And then I hadn't read her for a long time, and when she came back, she had that weird kind of chest armor. Didn't she have it on her forehead as well, like a weird?
Yeah, it was like a crown. That was
Yeah.
the redesign in Uncanny X-Men. Yeah, I didn't like that because it went against the character. The character is an angry, short-tempered. You know, she's a Morlock. She grew up on the fringes of society. She doesn't know how to behave. She doesn't know what's right and what's wrong. So her kind of animalistic, like sort of style. That's what makes her. So yeah, I hated the way she was so sort of elegant and bone bra or bone knickers. No, thank you.
Marvelous. James, anything to say about Marrow, and then moving on to your pick?
He lost me at bone bra, to be honest. Yeah. Is it an actual cost, like a bone thing she puts on, or is that part of her powers that she's? Because I know
it's part of her powers. So she
puts that on herself, like as
an armor. She can grow, like if she wanted to, she could like push really hard and make like an armor on her shoulder made of bone.
And one day she thought
she could just pop it off. And
one day she thought, I know, bone boobies and nicks.
No good.
Off the time.
James,
but without her, James, you wouldn't have Spike. So
yeah, okay, fair enough. Right, James. So Quicksilver. Yeah, I love this character. I always have. Love the design, the kind of this bolts going down the side. Whether you have this costume in like green, isn't it? It's originally green, and the blue version's kind of more kind of. Love the silver hair and like the wingtips. And like personality wise, you know, as most speedsters are, quite quick-witted and spunky. So that's something I've always like. Always a great adaptation. Anytime he's in something else, he's usually a standout character. So like, yeah, of course the X-Men movies, Evan Peters' portrayal is beloved. But I'm also quite a big fan of Aaron Taylor Johnson's version, and I was really upset that we didn't get more of that. Ben, you look like you disagree. You didn't see that coming, you know. I love that.
If I could have, I liked the you know, like the running costume he had.
Yeah.
Like the you know, the tight top and stuff. Like if you could merge that but have Evan Peter in that costume, that's the ultimate Quicksilver for me. I really didn't like Aaron Taylor Johnson's.
Yeah. Whereas I think you know the Evan Peters is great, but the design of that character is questionable. Remember, everybody hated it when they saw it at first. Everyone thought it was going to be terrible, but it was good. But yeah, no, it's again, I like him more as a villain, I think, or a kind of morally ambiguous character. But yeah, a classic one for me.
See, I like Quicksilver most, not when he's quick-witted and things like that. I like him when he's an arrogant prick. And that's the Quicksilver I enjoy. And there's
same thing. I balance the two.
Do you? I particularly like there's a superb X Factor issue. Ben's probably read it, where he's seen a psychiatrist. Well, it's Doc Samson. Have you seen that issue?
Yeah,
And
I
he
think
kind of, it's superb. It's got all of X Factor basically saying Doc Samson. And he does this kind of speech about how he asks Doc Samson, have you ever been stuck behind somebody in a kind of a bank and they're counting out £100 in pennies and how frustrated you get? And he says that's his life, basically. That's because of his super speed. That's every interaction he's got is that kind of drawn out process, which is why he's such a dick, basically. And it immediately made sense to us. Do you know what I mean? About why he's such an why speedsters are wound up all the time. Great character. I love him, James. I think it's an excellent pick. Ben, I know you're a big fan of Quicksilver.
Yeah, I mean, James basically just picks my other favorite characters for me, which is great. Like, I'm just constantly talking about my favorite characters on this show. Yeah, I mean, you guys know my how Evan Peter makes me feel inside. And like, I love the character in the comics as well, because as James said, you know, it's that kind of ambiguous, not really knowing if he is a bad guy, if he's a good guy. I know he's come into the X-Men, but then he usually fucks up and, you know, goes to the other side. I read a thing the other day where it's basically been revealed as well that every time that he's running on water in the years and years of history and comics that he's done that, it's been slowly damaging the environment, like the atmosphere, because it's like the ripples in the water. I don't know, whatever science, but so I think that's a really interesting new kind of element for the character, is that maybe his you know, his skills are actually more dangerous than anyone else potentially. So yeah, just a great pick. And again, we spoke about it so much on this show, we might as well just do a spin-off show about X-Men Evolution at this point, because that was another great version of this character in that show. Yeah,
tremendous. Ephraim?
I don't like this character. Sorry, first of all, when Vision and Wanda were together, his just animosity towards them when you're going to date a robot, how dare you, his superiority that he thought he had above everybody else. He stole Crystal from Johnny Storm when they were together, and you know, and when it came to Magneto, he was like his whipping boy for a while, you know. And I don't his air of superiority that he had over everybody else, and he wasn't that great, you know. So this character, I understand why you picked him, but he's been, you know, a mutant for such a long time, like from the beginning of the X-Men. But just the way his character arc has been going out throughout the decades, he just thinks he's better than anybody else, which I thought was a turnoff. You know, so
has anybody read I think it's a 2-part miniseries, The Last Avengers story? It's like a fully painted story.
I think I've read it. Yeah,
set in the future. It's a beautiful book. Really do recommend going to get it. I'm sure it's called The Last Avengers story, but basically it kills off all the Avengers. But there's an amazing scene where Quicksilver is kicking off with Vision, and he tries to attack Vision. Wanda gets in between them and casts a spell. So when when Quicksilver's trying to run away, her spell's doing the opposite, making him run into her. And basically he hits Wanda, knocks her into the Vision, who's as hard as diamond, and just splatters her into the atmosphere. Wow. It's phenomenal, absolutely.
Son of M as well is a highly recommended.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Is that where he steals the crystals?
Yeah. The cover's got him in that like trench coat in the front. Very nice. Oh, there's a great cover as well, wearing his dad's helmet. Like
yeah. Some beautiful artwork on those covers, actually. Very good. Ephraim, you've picked another interesting kind of newer X-Man. Tell me about this one.
So I picked Pixie. Her name is Megan Gwynn. She's a fairy winged mutant who can cause those exposed to her dust to experience hallucinations. But I think what really drew me to her more was during this one arc, and it was called Quest for Magic, where Ileana, Colossus' sister, selected Pixie as an innocent soul from which to create a new soul sword. And it went from there, but you know, there was some interruption, and her sword is smaller, and now she has teleportation powers too. So she has kind of some part of her soul or her heart has like black magic attached to it. She became like, they don't know, a little bit evil, but not all the way, like Ileana has been sometimes. And she's been under the tutelage of Stephen Strange sometimes too. I thought it was a very interesting character, her art, throughout the years. So that's why I picked her. And I like her hair too. So
Catherine has a pink hair fetish like me.
Yes.
Which is weird, by the way, because my mum dyes her hair pink. Just want to clarify.
That went very strange very quickly.
just I thought if anyone goes on my Instagram's like, hold on, your mum, like, I just wanted to, get out of the way. No, she's got like old lady pink hair,
I just like this character as a newer character, even though she's been around for about 10 years now. So that's why I picked her.
Not a character I'm familiar with, but I do remember reading a little bit about her earlier on, and she does seem very magic. She's like Ileana in a lot of ways, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she took part of her soul away from her, and she has a little bit of black magic, and she has a soul sword, but it's more like a dagger.
Soul dagger, yeah. Ben, you a fan of this character?
Yeah, well, local girl. I know Chris. If Chris is still in the chat, he'll be happy because she's from sunny Wales. So that's always nice when you're reading the book, to see the British Isles represented. So I think I was always drawn to her for that. But yeah, just a lovely kind of visual character again, and she's kind of a character that's always just been like at the school in books that I've read. She's always been about. But it's quite interesting that story about her personality going dark and that, because I've never read anything like that. She's always been lovely, in anything I've read, so I'm definitely going to search that out.
Not be a one you're familiar with, James, I don't think.
No, I've never heard of her. I love the design though. The yellow works, and like I'm always a fan of character with wings. So I like the hair as well. This isn't Zoe Kravitz's character from First Class, is it? No, okay.
No. Angel Salvador. She is Beaks Mrs. in the books, and they're baby little chicken people.
Zoe Kravitz was in the movie. Not at all.
She's in a few movies.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Doesn't she get her wings ripped on her wings on display in the next movie or something?
Yeah.
Well, he's in the
Gotta look into that now. Thanks for telling me, James.
Yeah. Okie dokie. My last character again is the one that I liked at the start of his run, but I've lost touch with a little bit. This is Nate Gray, so Nathan Gray, sometimes called X-Man or sometimes called Shaman. So basically, it's, for those of you, I'm sure you all know, Cable, Jean Grey and Scott's son gets infected with the techno-organic virus and gets sent to the future, and all the rest of it, loses his powers because of it. So this is a version of Cable without the techno-organic virus. So it's a version that's got full use of his telekinetic and telepathic powers. First appeared in X-Man 1 in 1995 as part of the Age of Apocalypse storyline. And I just loved him. I liked the costume. I liked the power set, telepathy and telekinesis. I liked that he was basically such a powerful mutant. At the moment, I think he's lost his powers and he got them back, but basically his power set is above Omega level. He's one of the most powerful mutants there is. He jumped to the 616 universe and had an odd run of comics, really. He lost his powers, like I say, then he got them back. Then he became the Shaman, a mutant kind of messiah kind of thing for a while. I think at the moment he's currently living in his own little kind of reality that he formed as part of the, I think it was called the Age of X-Man series or something. But originally, like I say, very powerful. I've always liked the character of Cable, so this was an ideal version of Cable, really, for me. And I like the fact that he was so uber powerful, really. Anybody got any comments on X-Man? Read anything of him?
I've read of him. I remember his character. I like the way they portrayed him, like a different version, like you said, of Cable, but without any restrictions, basically. But there's so many characters, and they're underused, and that's the shame about it. There's only so many X-Men books I guess they can come out with, and people who don't know about these characters just they don't sell, unfortunately.
Yeah, very true, very true. James, did you say hate him?
Hate him. Never liked the design. I think X-Man is a stupid name for a character. It's a character I've been familiar with, and I just really have, I don't know why, just a dislike for.
Have you read the X-Man miniseries from Age of Apocalypse?
No.
Yeah, that's worth a read. I agree. I think because he was so popular in Age of Apocalypse, they ported him over to the mainstream Marvel universe, and then it just went naff. They misused him after that, and he kind of disappeared. So I like him based on that original kind of run, really. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I don't really have a huge attachment to the character. I prefer that design when he was in like black shirt, open, and like he had that like tattoo X
Yeah,
tattoo on his
exactly.
chest or whatever. That's like, so I quite like the get up, but you know, how many bloody summers do we need? Do you know what I mean? Like they're everywhere. They grow on trees, these summers. So
Like Skywalkers, aren't they?
yeah, they are. They're the Skywalkers of Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, he's probably one of my least favorite summer characters. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, when my first ever Comic Con, actually, a friend of mine cosplayed as him, and it went down really well, which annoyed me because it went down slightly better than my costume. But yeah, no, it's a cool character for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so as we mentioned, there are just ridiculous
Yes.
amounts of mutants, multiples of them, you might say, and it was very, very challenging to just pick three, even though we've picked three previously. And of course, unusually, because it's normally Efren, but Ben led the charge this time in asking if he could have an honourable mention. So I relented and said he could. So I've picked an honourable mention, as has James. Efren has declined because he's saving all of his for a future video. But these are three honourable mentions, and we'll start again with you, Ben.
Yeah, so I went for Fred Dukes, aka Blob, whose first appearance was all the way back in X-Men 3 back in 1964, which is pretty cool. He of course went on to join the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. There's a great story with a post House of M Day or whatever they call it, where all the mutants lost their powers, or a ton of mutants, sorry, lost their powers, and because that happened to Blob, what happened is he sort of lost the impenetrable weight, but all the skin was still there. And it was like there's this really kind of dark scene where he tries to kill himself and he can't because he can't break through the skin and stuff like that. So that was all really interesting. He's now the barman on Krakoa and just rocks a Hawaiian shirt, which I'm living for. I absolutely love that. Yeah, he's one of these characters that's kind of, you know, one year he'll be part of the Brotherhood, the next he'll be an X-Man, and I'm always drawn to characters like that because I can sympathise. I think I'd probably be a bad guy one year and a good guy the next. So yeah, and visually, I just love big dudes. Like I love a big, strong bloke. And
learning a lot tonight, Ben.
Fred Dukes kind of fits that role again. X-Men Evolution, broken record, but a great version of this character. We got him in X-Men Origins Wolverine. I absolutely hated that decision to have him like getting fat. Like the fatness was like him getting fat off his own back sort of thing, not linked to the mutation. Hated all of that. I would say that the Kevin Durant's kind of characterization was quite good in the little lines he had and stuff, but it was just I've recently rewatched that film and it's absolutely as horrendous as you remember it. So yeah, we got a cameo of him as well in Apocalypse, where he's cage fighting with Angel.
Oh yeah.
So he looked perfect. He had the comic book accurate costume, but it was just like a throwaway cameo, which was a real shame. So I'd love to see if we do get MCU mutants, like have him in the MCU him up as well, like make him absolutely massive. Like I would be all for that. So yeah, my honourable mention goes to Blob.
Good stuff. Great character. James, who did you pick?
This is Jamie Madrox, or Multiple Man. Probably one of my favorite power sets of any character. I love the idea that he can just split himself off into multiple people and they can go and act pretty much completely independently for as long as he wants. So I've A character that's, I think, was he was in X-Men 3, and I remember just being completely wasted in that. He has like two scenes maybe. But he's got like a great, personality. It's a character I've always quite liked. We were supposed to get a movie at one point. I think James Franco was supposed to play him.
All right.
Yeah, I remember that before he got cancelled.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would love to. I think you could do some really cool creative stuff with him in a movie, and the comics have done before. So yeah, it's a character I've always quite liked.
Yeah, stunning character, one of my favorites. And again, his X Factor run is superb.
Oh, where he's the detective or whatever.
Yeah, when it's Madrox Investigates or something, isn't it?
I love the idea that like when they come back to him, he absorbs their experiences and memories and everything as well. Like that's how he gets the M, branding mark and everything on his face. Yeah,
superb character.
Did you know that? I'm sorry. Did you know that one of his characters, he didn't absorb him, and he got married and he had a kid.
Yeah.
And then he debated whether to absorb him or not. And he said, "No, I'm gonna leave you. Leave you. You have a life now." I wonder what would happen with the child.
Yeah. And he's another character who had the legacy virus, didn't he? Didn't he die from the legacy virus at one point? Or one of his dupes did or something. Yeah, I can't remember. We discussed Mimic in a previous video. So if you go onto my YouTube channel and have a look, you'll see top 3 X-Men. And we discussed Mimic there. I believe it was Efren's pick.
Yeah.
So yeah, great character. James, love Multiple Man. I think, and like you say, he got an amazing power set. First appearance was in Fantastic Four, I think, way back in the day. So yeah, very good character. I've picked Paige Guthert, so another one of the Cannonball's sister. So this is just a pick based purely on the aesthetics and the look of it. Bit like Marrow in terms of just the power set is just really interesting in terms of how it's presented in art form. So this basically is a character who was introduced in ROM Annual 3 back in 1984 as one of the siblings of, like I say, Sam Guthert. Basically what she does is she rips her skin off and has a different style body underneath. So whatever she's studied and knows the kind of the setup for, she can turn her skin into. So if she wants to turn to glass or metal or wood, she just kind of tears her own skin off, and underneath that layer of skin she sheds is the new body. More recently, she's had a secondary mutation. So her skin, when it's being torn off, also affects her mind, and she kind of changes her mindset when she's tearing it off. And there was a fantastic scene, I can't remember which issue it was in, because she had a relationship with Toad for a while. And there's a fantastic scene where she attacks Toad, and Toad's basically ripping layers and layers and layers of skin off until he gets to the original version of her, who doesn't understand what's happening because she's got no memory of what those other layers of skin had. So yeah, just a really cool character. Any of you guys familiar with Husk?
Oh yeah, great character, So these 3 are off the table now, right? These honorable mentions, I can't pick them.
You can't pick them. No,
pal. You should have got one in.
Yeah.
The romance with Toad was one of my favorite things about one of my favorite series, which is Wolverine and the X-Men. And it was just, I loved that it was just like a little secret that they had. It was just so sweet. And yeah, it ended in quite comedic fashion with that argument and stuff. But I like that.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So there we are. That's another load of mutant characters we've done. I feel we could keep doing this, but be interested to know in the chat what you want to do for top 3 next. If we do another one of these in the future, what top 3 would you like to do? I have to say, I'm tempted to go top 3 worst mutants. We've done kind of 6 each of our favorites. It would be interesting to do 3 that we don't like or we think are rubbish. But let us know in the chat. Look at Ben's face. Let us know in the chat if you've got any other ideas for top 3. So before we close it, next week's show, we've got Geeky Art Attack. So this is going to be a drawn show where myself and my guests will challenge each other to do some quick sketches where will be timed. James is going to be hosting or comparing it. So whilst we're
can't draw for shit.
Yeah, whilst we're drawn, James is going to be talking geeky news and gossip with us and getting our take on things. Should be an interesting one, so I'm quite looking forward to that. Jack is saying top 3 Batman villains. That we could do. That we could do. That will be very good. Just a quick mention of some of the UK YouTube community. So go check out their channels. Lots of interesting stuff going on there. Ben, this is your latest video. Tell me about
So
this.
if you want to see me unbox the HasLab Proton Pack, that video is now live. So genuine sort of first reaction to me opening the box and seeing it. Love at first sight.
Good stuff. GP, more than welcome, mate. Drop us a line and we'll get that sorted. Ben?
Yeah, and then the Geeky Gas Bag show, which is every week. What day? I don't know when I decide. We had it Saturday this week. We might have it Saturday. We'll probably have it Saturday again this week. So, yeah, Saturday night. And, yeah, we just take a look at all the geeky news from the week just gone. So, of course, the most recent one, we spoke about the Quantumania trailer. I'm sure next week we'll be speaking about Mandalorian trailer. I think it's dropping for us overnight or early tomorrow. What else? Oh, I want to talk about Skinamarink, which is this like new horror sensation thing. So look up Skinamarink because I want to talk about that. So yeah, lots to talk about, and we touch on figures and games and everything like that. So
good stuff. And can we just take a second to admire that costume there? That's phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
The timeshare as well. So good.
Very excited. Is it wrong that I'm not excited necessarily to see Ant-Man and Wasp? I'm more excited to see Kang.
Oh, we're all going in for Kang, aren't we? Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, that looks amazing. Yeah, can't wait. James.
It's my time to shine, baby.
So shine away. Tell me about it.
I have left obscurity. So yeah, The Last of Us debuted at 2 a.m. this morning, and I watched it then, and I've basically had it on repeat all day. So it's airing 9 o'clock tonight on Sky Atlantic, and then 9 o'clock again tomorrow on Sky Atlantic. And so I'll be doing a weekly review show. This will be starting Wednesday at 8 p.m. Where a few of you guys and I'll kind of have a panel of guests every week. We'll just do a little breakdown of the show.
Superb. Cannot wait for that, James. I've got no expectation or knowledge of The Last of Us, so I'm going in completely blind. So my take on it will be purely from a TV kind of experience. So I know that didn't go too well the last time when we had a conversation about Uncharted, but we'll see. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay.
Matthew is just saying here, Jackbox is always fun. Never heard of it. Anybody know what Jackbox is?
Nope.
Not a clue. So we'll have a look at that. Efren, my good friend Efren, I haven't got a slide for you. So what have you got coming up on your channel?
I just dropped a video right before we came on. I do my weekly read of the week. It's only a 1 minute short. And besides that, Peter and I are going to do our monthly advanced order picks, hopefully soon. And whatever pops in my head, I think I might do a video on how my collecting habits have changed throughout the years. I don't collect as much as I used to, and I'll explain why and what I'm looking for.
That sounds really interesting, Efren. Good stuff. And yeah, I'm actually I'm off this week, so we'll try and get something teed up this week. Hasn't got to be nighttime, whatever time you can make it. So yeah, we'll sort that out. Okie dokie. So as ever, can I just thank my expert panel? It's always a pleasure spending time with you guys. Always enjoy doing these shows. Brightens my day a little bit. So thank you very much for your input. It's been an interesting one today. And can I thank everybody in the chat? We've had quite a few people joining tonight. So thank you so much for that. It's been a real pleasure. And with that, we'll say good night and we'll see you next time. So take care, everybody. Bye.